Happy Friday, everyone. Today we are going to kick off the week, or the weekend, I should say, with some strength. We're going to slow things down, kind of ease into the weekend. We've had a big week. We've had some fun stuff going on this week. And we're just going to place this at the end of the week just to kind of work on some skills, work on slowing things down a little bit, to an extent, but allow us to work on a little bit of different movement types and style. So let's take a moment to slow things down, work on some strength, and we'll go from there. So today what we have for you guys, we have an overhead good morning for 5, a windmill for 3 to 5 aside, plank to down dog for 3 to 5, and a knee plank with hamstring curl for 10 to 30 seconds. So what you need for me today is something that you can tuck in between your hamstring and your calf. So you can squeeze. It could be a rolled up towel, it could be a medicine ball, it could be whatever. Something that you can just squeeze, a little pillow, throw pillow kind of thing. Something you can kind of squeeze and get some tension against your hamstrings with. So grab that before we start, so we're good to go with that, but we'll talk about that as we get closer to warm-up. After that, we're going to move into a practice round. The practice round is just going to be a couple reps of each movement, just to make sure you're comfortable with the loading. Not a full minute of work, but just 3 to 5 reps of each. Go over the pieces that you need to work on. Make sure you're comfortable and confident with those movements, and you have a good set idea of the flow of the work set, so that you're good to go here. From here, the work set today is 4 to 6 rounds. There's a subtle change. We've been doing this style of work for the past couple weeks. There's a subtle change to today's work set, and that is the rest. We're going to get a little less rest in today. So what you're going to do for me is you're going to do dumbbell squat, goblet or front, 60 seconds of squatting with a 3-second eccentric, and you're going to rest 15 seconds before the next exercise. So not as much time to kind of transition to the next exercise. The next exercise is a dumbbell bent row. You'll do 30 seconds per side with a 10-second transition between arms, just to give you a chance to reset that position. And then once you've done that, you'll have 15 seconds of rest, moving into our next exercise, which is the foot-assisted pistol. You'll move that through 30 seconds per side with a 10-second transition between sides, 3-second eccentric on that as well. Moving into a 15-second rest to our dumbbell skull crusher for 60 seconds. So this is kind of a new one. It's a different take on the pullover, so we're going to talk about that, get you squared away. You're going to do that for 60 seconds. You'll get that 15-second rest, transition back to the top, and we'll move back through that round. So with that shortened rest, the workout isn't going to take as long as the other ones were, but it's still going to take some time with the volume and in terms of rounds. So depending on how much time you have, play around with that 4 to 6 rounds of work. Let's have some fun. Kickstart the weekend off with some strength and some slower controlled movements before we have some fun on Saturday. All right, you guys, let's warm ourselves up a little bit. Let's get those feet under the hips. We'll take the arms big and tall up overhead. We're going to take it over to one side and come back up. We're going to stretch it to the other side. Come back up. We're going to scratch our back with both hands. We're going to pull the ribs in. Reach an elbow up. Down, reach an elbow up, come down, reach an elbow, and down, reach an elbow, and down, reach an elbow, down, one more time, reach an elbow, and down. Big stretch overhead. Good, we'll forward fold, touching those toes. Walk those shins, nice flat back. We'll come down, framing a foot. We'll step it back into those legs. We're going to show those legs a little bit of love. Pressing into that front toe, set those legs, we're going to turn the torso. We'll come back to center, lower the knee, press the hip. We'll come back through, straighten the leg, turn the torso, back to center, lower the knee, press the hip. Back to center, straighten the leg, turn, come back to center, lower, press the hip, back to center. Good, straighten the leg, plant the hand, we'll step back into that down dog. Reaching those hips, nice solid pressure to that shoulder. We're going to walk those heels out, nice and easy, nice and gentle. Just waking things up a little bit. And we'll come back into our plank. We'll step the other foot up, locking that front foot in place, pushing through those legs. We're going to turn. Center, lower, and press. Come back through,
reaching those hips, setting those shoulders, just walk those heels nice and slow. Even pause for a couple seconds per side if you like, just to give those legs a little bit of love after all the jumping, bounding we did all week. We'll come back into our plank. Tiptoe those feet up. We're going to roll ourselves all the way up. Big stretch. Good, big reach. Big reach. Oh, come down with those hands. There we go. Let's get you fired up. So if you like to pause the video for a moment, take down some more upper body, lower body love. Take that down. We're going to move into our kind of brief kind of overview of the body for our warm-up, get things prepped before we jump into that work set. We're going to kickstart off our day today with our overhead good morning. So we're going to get ourselves set up. I'm just going to walk you through again. We've been using this a little bit this week, but I'm going to walk you through that hinge pattern first. So my feet are going to be in a comfortable sumo stance. I'm going to stand up nice and tall, squeezing my glutes, setting my ribs so my hip crease to head is one solid piece, like kind of a block, just locked in place. I'm going to pull my hips back, softening my knees and keeping my feet flat as I feel those hamstrings. So at the very farthest I'm coming down is parallel to the floor, but anywhere in that range where I feel that kind of engagement through the hamstring, that's where I'm going to kind of ease into and stop. Now maintaining that hinge is very important, but note that as soon as we put our hands over our head, we may not be able to go as deep in that hinge. So we're going to take the arms up overhead, ribs in, nice and set. We're going to keep focus on that overhead position. We're going to pull those hips back into that nice hinge, working on that good overhead position and standing tall. So making sure that we're focused on that overhead position, not just the depth. So if the arms start to move, stop your range, come back out. After that, you're going to flow right into your windmill. So with this windmill, we're going to get ourselves set up, actively pushing through that arm, actively pushing down through the other arm. We're going to pull into that same hinge, except we're going to rotate at the low rib, taking that body down as far as you can maintain that overhead position. So this shoulder position is what we're focusing on. If you feel your shoulders starting to rotate as you move, stop your range of motion, come back up, and take it to that edge right before that shoulder starts to kind of rotate inwards. So we want to focus on that good position, and we want that shoulder to change orientation because of the rotation of the torso, not at the shoulder itself. So take your time with that one. There's no tempo, but I like to add in a nice 3-second tempo to that windmill. Our next exercise, we're going to really wake up that upper body and those hips with our plank to down dog. So we're going to work on that overhead position. So my hands are going to come out just outside my shoulders, but they're going to be under my shoulders. My ribs are pulled in. I'm going to press my shoulders to the ceiling. And then softening my knees, I'm going to pull my hips back into that nice down dog position, allowing myself to feel that openness through the shoulders. And that nice shoulder position that we talked about in that windmill is still in this position here in the down dog. So my shoulders set, rolling around away from each other, armpits pointing towards my thighs or toes. I just get into that really nice position, nice and set. As I come through, I'm pulling my ribs into that nice slightly tucked position, pressing my shoulders up the entire time as I transition from that overhead position to the horizontal position. So I'm always pushing through those shoulders, maintaining that strong, stable position there. Our next exercise requires a little bit of prop work. So go grab that towel, that yoga mat, whatever you have rolled up, foam roller. We're going to grab that and we're going to get you guys set up to wake up those hamstrings. All right, our next exercise requires some props. So I have my light med ball, and I want to emphasize the fact that I'm using a 4-pound med ball. I'm just using this. It's not about loading. It's just something that I can get a good grip on and I can squeeze. And the 4-pound med ball is very, very squeezable, very light and squishy. So we want to make sure it's something that's not overly heavy, but something that we can get some good pressure into. What we're going to do is we're going to take this med ball, we're going to place it on our calves, in between our glutes and our hamstrings. Now, with any other object, all right, we're just going to tuck it in between our calves and our hamstrings again so that we can squeeze into it. I'm just going to work on getting into my knee plank. So my fingers are wide, so I have a good grip. I'm going to push my shoulders up to the ceiling, and I'm going to pull my ribs in just a bit so I get that nice hollow position. So I'm in that nice plank, pulling the ribs in, and then from here, I'm going to squeeze that ball with my heels coming towards my glutes, and I'm going to work on keeping that pelvis tucked slightly and that shoulder active. So I know it doesn't look like I'm doing a lot, but I can really feel that in my hamstrings as I pull that heel into my glute. So we're going to really work on that engagement, really working on maintaining that tuck, and we're just charging up that hamstring. So what we're going to do there is we're going to hold that contraction for 10 to 30 seconds. So if you're looking at that going, yeah, I don't have 10 seconds yet, that's fine. Hold for 5, ease out of it, hold for another 5, ease out of it, and just bank some time in those smaller bite-sized chunks. As we start to build that capacity, we'll be able to hold longer and longer. But we want to make sure that we're pushing through the shoulders so the shoulders are active. We're pulling the ribs in so we maintain that nice kind of neutral pelvis, but that slightly tucked position. And we're squeezing that ball with those heels and those calves. Or a foam roller, or rolled up towel, whatever it happens to be. But we're pulling and curling with those hamstrings. So ease in and out of those movements, you guys. Make sure those hamstrings don't cramp up on you, but make sure we're feeling that engagement. Taking that down as a quick little recap, we have 1 to 2 rounds of this work set. It's just a quick overview to get things kind of fired up. We have an overhead good morning for 5, windmill for 3 to 5 per side, plank to down dog for 3 to 5, knee plank with hamstring curl, 10 to 30 seconds, and then we're going to move into our practice round right now and go over those movements for ourselves today. All right, you guys, the work set's here. So our first movement in today's work set is a dumbbell squat, and we have a choice of our goblet squat or front squat. It's up to you. If you're going to do a front squat, just make sure you either alternate sides per round or 30 seconds per side. It's up to you. Now with this as well, we're moving into our practice round. So we haven't squatted really yet today. We've done some hinging, but we haven't squatted yet. So if you'd like to do the practice round, air squat style or a mix and match of the different stances, so sumo, narrow, and regular stance, be my guest. Please take that down. Just ease yourself into that goblet or front squat. But we're going to go through our loaded squats. So our goblet squat, we hold the dumbbell under the chin. I'm gently pressing into the dumbbell just to make sure I keep my upper body engaged, and I'm pushing through those shoulders. Now, my stance is a regular squat stance, so it's just outside my hips / shoulders. I'm going to squeeze my glutes and set my ribs, so again, I'm one solid piece from hip crease to head. I'm going to pull the hips to the heels, keeping the chest up, keeping that body nice and strong, and keeping those knees tracking the toes, and then I'll stand. So each of these squats has a 3-second eccentric, so I'm going to work on that 3 seconds down, maintaining that good position, and standing with those hips and shoulders rising together. Now the front squat, we clean the dumbbell up, the back of the dumbbell rests on the shoulder, but besides that, and a little bit of pressure up with this arm, besides that, the squat's the same. I squeeze and set my glutes and ribs, I pull the hips to the heels, keeping my weight through my midfoot, and keeping that body as upright as I can. It may feel a little different because of the placement of the load, but our positioning and our body mechanics are the same. So we really want to focus on maintaining that nice, smooth body mechanics in our squats as we transition from different type of squat to different type of squat. All right? It might feel a little different, but like I say, the mechanics are the same, just a slightly different position of load. Each rep has a 3-second eccentric. Pick your adventure today, goblet, front squat. They're both very useful in our journey in perfecting that air squat. Our next exercise we move into is our dumbbell bent row. So the dumbbell bent row can be done a few different ways. We've done it in the past with an ottoman, a chair supporting that leg. I'm going to show you 2 ways we can do it today without any extra equipment. So if you don't have a chair or ottoman you can use for the bent row, what we can do is we can stand this dumbbell up. I have my feet in a squat stance or hip width stance, just nice and solid underneath of me. I can hinge, taking the dumbbell to the knee so that dumbbell hangs just above the knee and underneath of the shoulder. And I'm going to work on keeping my body straight and square, and I'm going to pull that dumbbell into that low rib and then come straight down. Pull back and in, straight down. Back and in, straight down. So I want you guys to keep in mind that we're pulling back and into the hip, not up into the chest. So we're not pulling up here, we're pulling down here. So we're pulling more to the hip, low rib, opposed to the shoulder. So that's super important to keep in mind as we're in that hinge position, because it's really easy to want to pull straight up to the shoulder. Now the other variation is in a staggered stance. So we allow ourselves to have this staggered kind of lunge stance. My knee in the front is bent, my back knee is soft. I'm standing up nice and tall, and I'm going to pull my hips back into that hinge. So I'm in that nice straight back position. The leg that's back is the arm that's working, so I have space. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I pull into that hip, I bring the dumbbell straight down. Pull into that hip, straight down. And I can use this hand on that thigh as a little bit of support if I'd like to, but I'm not leaning on that thigh. I'm using my core, I'm using my body to stay upright and stable in that position and in that hinge. So that's another option you can play with if you don't have a bench or ottoman chair that you can use to kind of support yourself in that bent row. All of which though, regardless of what you're using, a bench, ottoman, freestanding, two options I just showed you, our back is in that really nice hinge position, not in a flexed position. So we're in a nice, strong, stable good morning / deadlift position with that spine. So keep those key points. If you need to stand up and reset mid-set, please do so. Your back position is more important than just another rep in the row. Our next exercise, we go back to the legs, and we're going to work on our foot assist pistol. And there's 3 different ways we can do this foot assist pistol. If you have high volume pistols, mind you, you can do them in this workout, but I want you to make sure that you have high volume pistols and you've worked them before in a work set. Now the foot assist pistol is a great way to build volume, build range, strengthen that single leg work. So we're going to set ourselves up with that toe down pretty close to the foot. My hips are square, my body's tall, and I'm going to take my hip to my heel, so normal squat mechanics. This leg here is going to do a little bit of stabilizing for me, but the majority of the weight is in the balancing working leg. I take my hip to the heel, 3 seconds down to that good solid range that I have, and then I push through that leg standing tall. All right, so I'm really working on that nice depth range of motion. Now if I have consistent depth and that's getting easier, what I can work on is that same foot assisted variation with a little bit of weight. So I'm going to get that same position. The dumbbell will be in a goblet position. I'm going to take it down with that 3-second eccentric, maintaining the load over top of that lead leg, and then push through that leg to stand. So if I've been doing these for a while, and you're like, you know what? Those are getting really easy. I'm getting better with that external load. Well, you can make it a little bit harder and take that balancing leg away. And we're going to work on a little bit more stability through that balancing leg. So what that's going to look like is taking the toe from the kickstand, we're going to plant it on the back of the heel. We get square in the glutes, big toe stays down. We take that hip to the heel, focusing on that tension, and then we stand up nice and tall. So we can still get some assistance from this leg on the back of the heel in terms of keeping our hips level and getting some tension there, but it doesn't allow us to balance anymore. So we really have to pull that balance in with that foot assist on the back of the heel. Now our next stage from that would be loading that single foot with that toe on the heel and using that with the dumbbell, but that's kind of a nice progression to play with, working that foot assist pistol moving forward into a full pistol. So that's always fun to play with and experiment. But just because we have those progressions doesn't mean you have to jump to those progressions right away. Make sure the one that you're working on right now is solid, strong, and consistent before we start adding load or taking away the balance. Our last exercise is a slightly different variation of our dumbbell pullover. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay on the floor. We're going to get ourselves down. Feet are going to be flat, just like a bridge. My low back is going to be pressed into the floor, and I'm going to have my dumbbell over my chest and over my head. So my elbows are kind of soft to the outside, and I'm going to get myself set up here nice and strong. So the pullover, the whole shoulder moves together. All right, so everything, the full arm moves as one. Now the skull crusher, we're going to isolate the tricep. So we're going to bend at the elbow and then press straight up. Bend at the elbow, press straight up. And we're going to work on that, taking it down, pressing up, 3 seconds to the floor, straight up. And we're working on engaging through that tricep, keeping those ribs in to stabilize the shoulder, but we're taking that dumbbell down to the floor by bending at the elbow. Big thing here, you guys, you can also hold it like so, and from here, we're just going to take it basically just down to our head, and then press it straight back up. Back to our head, and press it straight back up. So it doesn't have to touch the floor, touch the head, or get close to the head, and press. But we're bending at the elbow, working on isolating the tricep. So take your time with that one, it's a little different. You're gonna have to probably back the weight off if you have multiple loads and you've been building up your pullover. It's gonna have a different feel than the pullover, so practice a couple times with some different weights if you have access to some different weights. If you don't have access to different weights and you only have one, see how it feels. And if you're like, not a chance, Dave, not doing that skull crusher, work on the dumbbell pullover again to work on the stability through the lats and the pec to build that strength and overhead position. So I'm not picky on that one, but I wanted to give you guys a different option when it comes to that tricep and overhead love. So as a quick recap with our work set today, we have a dumbbell squat, goblet or front, 60 seconds worth of work with a 3-second eccentric, so that's a lowering of the squat. 15 seconds of rest, then you'll move into your dumbbell bent row. 30 seconds per side with that 3-second eccentric. 10-second transition between arms. You'll rest 15 seconds, then you'll go into your foot assist pistol. 30 seconds per leg with a 10-second transition between those legs. Rest 15 seconds. Dumbbell skull crusher, 60 seconds of work. 3-second eccentric, and that rest of 15 seconds. So really embrace that tempo on all these movements, you guys. Have fun with this one. Again, we're going to think about moving for quality, move well. If you're doing this today and you're feeling really stiff from those lunges or anything we've done this week, you could even keep this work set with the squats and whatnot empty and just body weight and just use it for movement to get those legs working and feeling better for the weekend. So give yourself the dose that you need. As always, you guys work for quality, have a ton of fun with this work set, and we'll see you tomorrow for, I do believe, a birthday experience. So let's have some fun today and we'll celebrate tomorrow. Bye, you guys.